Folks, welcome back. Happy St. Patrick's Day Monday. I'm Maniac, and this is the Banditos podcast. We got episode 2 here. Let's get our guy Gatesy in the mix. Gatesy, happy St. Patrick's Day. Happy Victory Monday from this past weekend. But, of course, as always, the Banditos podcast brought to you by Cellino Plumbing and HVAC. Let's face it, folks. Lacrosse moves fast, and when your home needs help, you need a team that moves just as quickly. From emergency plumbing repairs to HVAC tune-ups, Cellino is always ready. No waiting, no hassle, just fast, reliable service from a team you can trust. Call 68-FLUSH and experience championship-level care. Gatesy, I'm going to need some championship-level care after this past weekend. It took a lot out of me, these late nights.
Yeah, these late nights and these really just intense games where Bandits go behind early, starting to panic a little bit internally, but they find a way to win. I feel like that's just kind of been the whole course of this whole three-peat season that we're looking to, is just stressful game after stressful game after stressful game. But somehow, some way, the Bandits are still finding the win column, still sitting in first place. Maniac, how are we feeling halfway through March right now?
We're feeling good, Gatesy, and that's why we got our first topic up here. Obviously, it was a 6-0 start. We're now sitting, at 9-1, 9-2 with the Bandits. 10-2. Sorry, absolutely scrambled this Monday. I said it was a long weekend. I am buying anything that I can get right now to get over this. With that said, it's my friend Pat took a turn. The classic Michael Scott remembering tactic. It's the Bandits Patterns, Gatesy. In the first, 6 games, it was almost 2.5 months. It was almost adversity free. The Bandits were just kind of cruising to victory. They had the banner raising night to close out the 2024 calendar season. They dominate. They have easy sailing there. In the last 4 games, and specifically the home games with the raucous crowd, it's been interesting first halves and then kind of falling off at the end. And then lately it's been, road games where the other team gets out in front, but then the Bandits kind of queue up that championship pedigree and take care of business to get wins on the road. It's been a crazy pattern the last couple months.
It really has been. Like every single Bandits game you tune into, it's not like you're going to kick your feet up, have a nice relaxing night of watching some box lacrosse. Either the first half, you are just panicking. Second half, you're just also panicking because you don't know what to expect. But you get the big cowboy hat on like Maniac. Things seem to get a little bit better. And Maniac, I think things might be even better this weekend at this little place called Resurgence, if you do say so.
Seriously, we'll be interested for patterns, and we'll be looking out for them at our Resurgence Quest for the Three-Peat Party. So if you weren't there at our first one, we had an amazing time. Amazing Bandits fans coming out to Resurgence, having a great time. We saw a great win over the Saskatchewan Rush. So get to Resurgence this Saturday. Get your tickets at our link in our bio, or go to Resurgence profile at Resurgence Brewing Co. And get into the mix today. Super excited to see that crowd. And yeah, I'm interested to see if the patterns will continue, Gatesy, because we heard from Dane and Josh. We talked to them behind the scenes a little bit with our media work, and they were definitely thinking that down the stretch of this season, it could be difficult. The schedule makers, like we've been saying it for weeks, did not do them any favors.
No, they didn't do them any favors. They basically had the whole first half of the season off. It also doesn't help, too. The Bandits have some guys with a lot of games under their belt. You got Vinc in his 40s, Dawson's 39, Byrne. Like, these guys have played a lot of lacrosse in their careers, especially in the past several years when we're going on these deep playoff runs. And it's going to be the time to really put it all together. Thankfully, it's not like a pressure situation where they have to, kind of win out to make that rush or to make that push. They're in that top spot. They don't have, their backs against the wall like previous years where, they slide into a playoff position. They have all the targets on their back right now. It's just trying to stay healthy, stay fresh, and just keep that momentum going, in my opinion, Maniac.
Yeah, for sure. You obviously want to keep the momentum you have. And yeah, I don't know what it is about these. Yeah, I mean, again, it's only 2 games, so I'm not, making a big stink about it. But at the end of the day, this was a team that last year, they survived home overtime playoff game. It was next goal wins. If the Bandits didn't score the next goal last year, they were going home. So I get nervous about those spots. I want to find ways to avoid being in, some kind of struggle regarding them. So I just want to be careful. I want to make sure we're maximizing any opportunity. Mm-hmm. We know that Dane and Josh, we know the defense gives them that. So we obviously want to manipulate those. With that said, speaking of manipulation, it has been up and down for our Bandits recently. And a lot of that has been tied to the play of Matt Vinc, or Matt Vince, as I like to call him. He was invincible this past weekend. Almost went 40, 45 minutes without allowing a goal, Gatesy. We talked about it. Obviously he's older. He has been a huge part of the Bandits' success this last, half decade, especially. Where do you see Vince at this point of the junction of the season? You're also, again, I know it's hockey, but you're a goalie with some experience. Talk to me about the mindset of when, Vince is playing unstoppable, but then likewise, he has a down fourth quarter at home last week. What's the mindset like, and where do you think he's going forward with the season with just about a month and a half left?
Well, I think the last game against Calgary on the road is exactly what he needed and what the team needed, because he's a guy that basically holds every single record you could possibly have as a goalie in the NLL. He is a monster for his whole career, especially now. It seems like he's a fine wine, just gets better with age. But the fact that he has that experience, he's been there, he's done that, where he's going to have a rough game at home in front of a sold-out Bandit land and go and absolutely shut the door next game against the same team. I think that speaks volumes to him, the leadership he brings, both on and off the field there. That is something important. If the Bandits are going to go for that quest for the three-peat, go for a deep playoff run, they're going to need a guy in net who's not going to, blow up after a couple goals let in. He showed up next game and went completely lights out. That is something the Bandits need. And I think after the first Calgary game at home, there were some comments on our Instagram of people asking them, get them out of town.
Listen, Banditland fan, I mean, they are like a little bit more passionate, but they're still cut from the same cloth of those Bills, those Sabres, those quick reactions, sometimes a little bit too quick in my mind. Yeah, you saw some people in the Bandits group, they're like, pull Vinc, why are so-and-so struggling? It's a long season. There's going to be ups and downs for everyone. If everyone is playing at MVP level all the time, it'd be crazy. But yeah, it was interesting to see after that. You said it perfectly. That last game against Calgary, again, the wheels kind of came off in that fourth quarter. Some people were asking, and this is coming off a game where they held the Saskatchewan Rush to 7. So on both sides of that struggle appearance, Gatesy, again, 7 goals at home to Calgary in the fourth quarter is unacceptable. I won't even say that it's bad. It's unacceptable. But on each side of that, to bookend it with a 7 goals allowed performance in Saskatchewan and a 6 goals allowed performance in Calgary, it just puts you in a weird mindset with these Banditos. Are we going to be more confident at home in the playoffs? Obviously, you want Banditland to be, our top asset. I think that the players would say that as well. But you look recently, it's been a little bit of a struggle to get it done at home. They haven't won at home now. Essentially, they haven't won a home game since February 1st. Okay?
It's a long time
ago. That feels a little. So you want to, again, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter if you're, riding a bike. Doesn't matter if you're rooting on, Ian McKay at Banditland. Okay? You want to get those reps in and you want to have consistency. So the fact that they haven't at, again, our home arena, our top weapon, our top asset outside of the roster, it's just troublesome. It's a little worrisome. It's got me scrambled in the brain a little bit, Gatesy.
Yeah, especially when playoffs are going to be most likely running through Banditland itself. You want to have that be your biggest asset. We can spin zone this maniac in the fact that they're finding ways to win games that they probably shouldn't be winning. They're really getting creative in every aspect. I feel like every week there's a new way they're finding a way to win. So I'm just going to tell myself this is a good thing. That, even with, there's a lot of doubt coming from some NLL media members on, is this Buffalo Bandits team legit if they're, losing to Calgary, they're having all these close games. They're finding ways to win. You come playoff time, that's all that matters. And I'm not going to sit here and never complain about a win after watching, 70-something Sabres games this year, the Bills heartbreaks. Let's take this game at a time and go from there. But, now that these Rough Riders games are done, they kind of slayed the demon from the previous week. Scored some goals, kept a lot out of the net. We'll see what this weekend brings, Maniac.
Yeah, we're going to see, obviously, what this weekend brings. We got the Las Vegas Desert Dogs coming in on Friday night. And then, of course, we'll be heading. So that's nice, not having to jet across the country or even over a couple provinces to just drive down the road, essentially. Or they'll probably fly, but to just go down the road to Albany for a Saturday night game. That'll be interesting, though. Back-to-back is never easy. We look at the Bandits in back-to-backs this year. Trying to see if they've even had one.
They had one, 2-3 weeks ago? Time is just all kind of flown together.
Oh, here. Yeah. Sorry. That was when they beat the Rock on the road and then came home against the Seals. Both 1-goal games. So with that said, I think we should expect both these games to be a little bit closer this week. I wouldn't surprise if we were in for some cardiac attacks No lawyers, please. At Resurgence this Saturday. But yeah, so Las Vegas Desert Dogs, and then at Albany on Saturday. And Gatesy, I was looking into the groups. I was looking into the Bandito lands, and it seems like everyone's talking playoffs. They're trying to figure. Again, we're not talking about whether the Bandits are going to make the playoffs. They're the number one team in the NLL. That is a foregone conclusion virtually at this point. But the talk is that if they win against the Desert Dogs, they win against the Firewolves, I think they need one other game to go their way, and they would be into the playoffs. They would officially clinch that spot with 4 games and just about a month left on the schedule. A nice spot to be if you're the Banditos, Gatesy, and this is what they battled all early season to earn this opportunity.
100%, because, again, they basically did not play a single game in the first half of the year, it felt like, where they can give their older guys who are in their 40s, late 30s, give them a week off, rest the legs before, you're going into a playoff game, where if you're locked into that position, nothing's going to change, and the guys feel good. Like, that's the biggest thing, that the Bandits are in position. We're not just happy with, making the playoffs. We'd say something different for the other team playing out of that building. For the Bandits, there's much more important things than just getting to the postseason right now. It's to make that run. It's all about that quest for the three-peat, and that can't happen if your guys aren't healthy, they're not feeling good. So if you can get that locked up now, I think it's going to solidify a lot of things going into that postseason run.
Okay. I think we kind of talked about this run and maybe how it's different than a little bit last season.
Yeah.
Obviously, Frazier Farrell coming at last season made a huge difference out of the faceoff circle. The year before that was kind of their first run. So this is definitely an interesting vibe for the third run. But I want to jump ahead here because I know we're talking the landscape in the playoffs, but depth scoring. At the end of the day, I know we were talking about it and you brought it to me. I was shocked because last I checked, Josh and Dane, I'm pretty certain, and again, this was definitely about a month ago, we're both top 10 in scoring in the NLL. But since with these recent games with a couple of these defensive battles, you said only Josh in the top 25 across the whole NLL.
Yeah, then Dane and McKay are both tied for 26. But it's really interesting because top 25, it's just Josh Byrne who's in in that top echelon there, and then outside of that, there's no real bands that show up to that 26 spot, and then they kind of flood in after that. So it's really kind of interesting to see the progression of this Bandits team. Obviously, Dane Smith is top 3, I believe, right now in assists in the NLL. But in terms of just scoring, finding the back of the net, it's really, you got Josh, and then it's really kind of focused on 4 or 5 guys, which is good where you're not kind of putting all your eggs in 1 or 2 baskets right now. But the Bandits kind of need those guys to really take that next step. Nanacoat, McKay's had a great year. Dane Smith is going to be a dog, but Maniac, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, no, you said it best, Gatesy. You're just going to need these other guys to step up based on what you've seen. They've been successful this year. Again, let's not forget they're 10-2. They've been successful this year.
Yeah, not going to complain.
Yeah, with Dane kind of playing the conductor role in the offense for sure. I think he would tell you he wants to score more goals for sure. But at the end of the day, when the team's winning and he's putting up 4 to 6 points and creating goals for the teams, obviously that's a nice luxury to have. With that said, you look at the roster overall, right? Let's pull up. We got Josh Byrne, we got Ian McKay second in goals. Yeah, those are your big, 5 or so. Because we were talking, and I was messaging you. You got your MVPs. You got Josh Byrne. You got Dane Smith. You got Matt Vinc, who's been up there for basically I think they said 3 MVP finalists over the last 10 years. So he's constantly in the discussion. Someone who can be there. But with that said, you got McKay. You got Bucky, you got Frazier, like you said, you got Deoga, and then you got Kluch, and it kind of goes down the list from there. With that said, we talk Byrne, we talk Smith, we talk Vinc. Who are your 2 kind of most important Bandits outside of those 3? And again, the whole team is important, obviously. To get it done without one of them would be crazy. But at the same time, why you need all of them is because they each have individual roles to play. So with that said, what 2 are you looking at as your not MVPs, but your MVBs outside of those 3 as we wrap up Banditos episode 2 here?
I think right now, one guy I'm really interested in seeing, especially after this past weekend, is Paul Dawson. He's been a rock for the Bandits. So last game against Calgary, he had 7 block shots, which is tied for the second most all-time in NLL history for block shots in the game for a defender. Anyone who watches a Bandits game, you'll see these guys just absolutely throw their bodies at this lacrosse ball, which is kind of absurd to think about. But especially the previous game against Calgary where they got lit up for 17, to have your guys come in and block shots, I think is a huge get.
Yeah. That was
And I
very
think the
nice
Bandits
to
are at
see
their
this
best.
past weekend for sure.
Yeah, so like
They've
he's a
been
guy,
inventing new ways to win. That's what championship teams do.
especially the playoffs. Like you need those block shots, you need defensive stops. You're not going to be able to score 17 a game in the playoffs. So getting those blocks, and I think is huge. And for a guy that's 39, that's going to do that, like that, I can really build some momentum off their Maniac.
Yeah. Oh wait. So hold on. So you picked him, and then who else was your guy?
I'm gonna go with the captain.
Okay.
Basically from the standpoint of, again, I think it was that Calgary game and the Saskatchewan game beforehand. He's a guy that plays with a ton of jam, ton of grit, but found his way in the penalty box far too often and cost the Bandits a lot in those games. Last week, he was out of the box. He brings a ton of leadership. He can find the back of the net. And he's a guy that's just kind of been that unsung hero for, I think, these Bandits teams where he's the captain, he's the leader. But, all the conversations on Dane, it's on Josh, it's on, goaltending, where, you have your captain, you have your leadership. Like, that's a guy who I think is going to step up in these big moments down the stretch here and into the postseason. I think those two guys kind of like unsung heroes for the Bandits who do a lot of like the tough, gross things that I think are going to really find some shine here in the postseason.
Yeah. I mean, you just look again about the way this offense operates, especially this season. 125 assists between Dane Smith and Josh Byrne. The rest of the team, I mean, nobody has above 20. So those are obviously your studs. I mean, when you have, I guess the easiest example for me when I look at those two, like your prime Malkin and Crosby's, like you got to get your Chris Kunitz's involved. You got to get your other guys involved if you want to get to that championship level. So obviously, this is a homer pick because I met him and he was awesome. But we'll go with Connor Farrell out of the face-off circle. He just said it best. Like, you got to love someone who understands what they're supposed to do. And when I asked him why, his role on the team was so important, he goes, well, I just get the ball to the MVPs. I win the ball and then I get it to the MVPs. Like, okay, that's very straightforward. Thank you, Connor. Good gig for sure. My MVP getting the MVPs the ball. And then I look at it. So I love what we've seen from McKay, Buchanan, Frazier, and I love what we've seen from Deoga. Again, I think it was 2 games ago, the full sprawl out from behind the net. I think that when you look at where Josh and Dane best operate, which is, again, I don't, this is where our neophyte nature in NLL stands up. It's basically like the point area. Like Dane kind of has his own Ovechkin office, and then Josh likes to kind of float around those points and like just snap it. That's why it makes it so important for me with Deoga behind the net. When Deoga is able to be a pest behind there, cause the goalie some uncertainty. I mean, you take him away from a corner or the edge of that net for a half a second, the Bandits are filling it up. So again, I love what Bucky's done. Had the hat trick the other night. Ian McKay, Chase Frazier, of course. But Deoga is definitely my MVP if we're going to need another run here. So looking forward to seeing what they do. Looking forward to this stretch run, Gatesy. We do have, obviously, the multiple games this weekend. They'll be taking on Vegas at home on Friday. And obviously, we will be at Resurgence for the Bandits quest for the 3P party on Saturday when they take on the Firewolves. Any final thoughts or shout-outs here on Banditos episode 2?
Hey, I mean, we have a great team here in Buffalo. To go to Banditland, to watch in an incredible atmosphere is great. And when they're on the road, you can also experience that same, vibe of Banditland at Resurgence. Maniac should be slick there hosting. Buffet. We have signed Bandits gear, trivia, game on the big screen, tons of Bandits fans. Chance, you know it. You don't want to miss these events because they are fun. And we have to enjoy when we have a dominant sports team in the city of Buffalo.
Got to embrace it. Got to embrace the winner. Yeah. And we do know, I want to address this is very serious. This is very important. We had a couple people commenting, maybe, the host shouldn't drink so much throughout the game on the Resurgence event last time. So don't worry. Slick and I are going to do all our drinking before the game. So we will be wide open during Resurgence this Saturday, and looking forward to seeing all of Banditland there. This is the Banditos Pod with myself and Gatesy. So thanks for tuning in here on Trainwreck Sports. Would it be lame to be like POD to the pod? Woo!
Ooh, I think we have
with that said, thank you, Banditland. Have a good day now.